Alright, so I decided to work on a project where I would convert this laptop into something of an all-in-one computer. This is a Acer Nitro 5, and while tearing it out I decided, I feel like I should just record as I'm going and no edits, no nothing, just make it as, natural as possible. And I unplugged the battery and I'm like, I think I'm going to record this entire process. So the problem with this laptop is that this hinge over here kind of snapped, and now it's really broken, and opening the laptop and closing it is quite annoying. So what I'm thinking of doing is I'll just take the components from here and just stick it along this back side. As you can see, it's cracked, and that's just super glue holding it together. So I'll take that, I'll maybe stick like a piece of MDF on the back and have some standoffs to go on the PCB that'll raise it and allow for some airflow. I'm not too bothered about the speakers, so I think I'll just reuse these ones here. I'll also stick the battery on the back as a backup, and let's see where it goes from here. So I'm just gonna start taking this thing apart now. Okay, I managed to unplug everything. Here is your Wi-Fi card. This is the cable that's going to your hard disk, and pretty much freed up the board. That's the display cable. We're gonna have to get back to that in a minute. And it seems that the fans are separate and they actually just attach to the body, so we'll have to make some sort of a mount to keep that in place. And here's your I/O shield board thingy. Has headphone jack, 2 USB ports, and there's your keyboard cable. Here's your trackpad. This is some status lights. That's your CMOS battery, and more or less that's about it. Okay, I completely separated it from the base, and this entire housing is actually just the keyboard, and you can just pull it off from the display. Now what I've done is I've connected the battery again, the hard disk is there, and we've connected the display. I removed the Wi-Fi card, just kind of getting on the way. And what I'm going to do next is connect the keyboard, because it has the power button right there, and I'm going to see if this thing turns on. Right, next day. I managed to plug this in with just the power. The battery is flat dead, so I'll have to charge that, but not right now. I managed to plug this in to the display, and you have your Wi-Fi here and your display here. I plugged it in and it was working outside of that, but problem was again that because the laptop keyboard has the power switch in it, you're gonna have to have a workaround that. So either I just keep the thing on all the time, or I find something to turn it on, and you maybe plug in the DC jack. Now the next problem is that this display cable isn't long enough to go and attach to it if the PCB is on the back. So either I extend the webcam cable and pull this out, or I just remove the webcam entirely. And these hinges, you can see where they failed. Right here you can see there's a crack, and that's a pretty common breaking point for laptops. It's cracked on both sides, and that's what happens when this breaks. It then starts affecting the plastic, and the plastic starts bending at exactly at the same point. You can see how these two cracks are in line. So I'm gonna try making up a design for this and see what to do next. Okay, I did some designing and rough sketching, and here is what I'm thinking of making. So we'll have the display something like this here. The display has the cable to the left side of it, and it'll be something like this, where this purple portion is a piece of wood or some stand, and we have the internals strapped to the back of it with the fans blowing the air. Now this is actually before I saw that the display cable wouldn't reach, so what we have to do is now we have to flip these fans over, which I did here. So now they're gonna take in air from here and blow it out downwards. and we have all these IO here. We have this expansion board that I'll also have to attach, and this goes about there. Then we have mounting holes here, over there, there, around here, all around this surface, and we have one in the center here, which I've also gone ahead and marked here. And the piece of wood that will fit perfectly on the back of this is about 38 by 15 centimeters, and that's what I'm gonna take here. We're gonna mount this board on this perfectly there, both the fans blowing on the back, and we'll get something like this towards the end. Now I did think of maybe making it like, you know, on the base over here we have the internals mounted, but then that would be a little too wide for this to be like a nice thin all-in-one setup. So I'm gonna look for some parts and maybe some standoffs to start mounting the internals on. Alright, another update. I pulled the hinges out of the laptop, and I'm thinking of reusing them as well. And you can just mount that at the bottom and then epoxy that to the back. And same goes for the other side. This one just has this weird fold lip thing which I'll cut off. Then internals are fine. There was an extra cable here which was a hall sensor for detecting when the laptop's closed. I just removed that, you don't need that anymore. And I found the workaround for how to turn this on without the keyboard. So these two pins on the edge, if you just short them together with something like a jumper cable, it turns the laptop on. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab this switch and just solder each end to each pin. And this is a momentary switch. You can just use that as a power button, and it has this nice red button to go on top. Now what I've done is I got the board and I got it cut perfectly. So now it's going to sit at the back like this, and then we can mount our PCB on this. And I'll just put the PCB on it, mark the holes, and I've also gone ahead and I've ordered the standoffs and I've ordered the epoxy here. Yeah, looking good so far. Let's see how this thing turns out once the other parts are right now. I've been trying to get this to work for so long now, but I finally hooked up a button to the two pins that can actually shut on and off the laptop. So watch this. If I press and hold this switch, it's going to turn the laptop off, and then the fan stops spinning. Oh my god, this took so long. Finally. So now that that's done, the standoffs should arrive by tomorrow along with the epoxy. So I just need to drill holes in this, mount it with the standoffs, glue everything together, and this is almost done then. Okay, off camera work, I got a drill, I made holes, drilled them, countersunk all of them. We've got the bolts in here, and the standoffs are in place as well, and this thing sits perfectly on top. Okay, I can't do this with one hand, hold on.
One eternity later.
So you can see this perfectly lines up there. We've got another one there, that's the hole for that. This USB board sits on there, and it's gonna plug into here. I powered up the switch as well, it's there. And once I have this done, we can plug in everything and have a first test with the thing. Nice. Okay, that's how everything's looking now. We got all of this stuff plugged in, and let me just unplug this hard disk real quick. Yeah, so that's a whole package. It's solid. You can see there's enough room there. You can see there's airflow space here. None of the components are touching the MDF, and we have our epoxy, which will then use it to stick it on the back of the display. And we can stick these two speakers on this side as well. I don't want to grade them, I'll just leave them as is because I intend to use these with some nice headphones. So that's your headphone jack right there. I'll just rewire this power button came off, and then I think we should be good for a first test. Yeah, seems good. Now again, I'm no DIY perks that I'm gonna go ahead and make a nice box for this. I don't have those skills, but you know, I think for what it is and the amount of effort I've spent on it, I think it's fine. You know, I kind of like it. It's not bad. Okay, I finally had the guts to open the epoxy. We have the PC ready, we have the laptop back ready, we have the epoxy ready. I'm gonna slather on a bunch on the back here, just flip it over and put it down. I'll put some heavy books on top just to make sure that this thing gets enough time, and I'm gonna leave this overnight and see how it looks in the morning. Okay, this is about to be the most stressful part of this whole project. I've used up almost half the bottle of epoxy now, and I've put it like a whole coat below this, and I've got about some books on this now. It's got about 15 minutes of move time, so if I need to make some minor adjustments, that should be fine, but more or less I think it looks good. Yeah. Alright, it is now the next morning, and I'm gonna start removing these books one at a time. So, okay, it's coming up, and that's it. That's the final small piece of MDF I put on top of the PCB just to make sure that the books don't directly contact on any component. And now for the real test. I should be able to pick up one hand. Oh, the newspapers. Yo, nice. That's cool. And then we can set some hinges up. I'll just connect the display cable, and this thing is almost done. That's so cool, dude. Look at that. Nice. Okay, I mixed up some more epoxy, and I've gone ahead and glued one of the clamps on. So I just put some paper and then a piece of wood to allow it some space above the clamp, and I've clamped this through and through, and it is very sturdy. This thing is not going anywhere. If it were to break, it would be the plastic before that breaks. And I mounted the speakers to the side as well. Wire I passed it from underneath that standoff there, behind the hard disk, and I've glued it down there. Same with the other one. Connects right in there. So this has audio support as well, and then you have your headphone jack and everything in case you're going to use that, which I'm going to use more. And looks pretty good. I'm going to wait for this to dry, and then I'll stick the other one on here. Alright, quick update. I've epoxied one of them to the point where I can move this hinge without supporting this part here, and a bunch of epoxy down there. And I've positioned the second one, and I thought I would just set up a time lapse as well to just show how I'm going about this epoxying process. So set this down, and hopefully this is a good angle. I'm going to start now. Okay, never mind, that time lapse wasn't good at all. I've glued it on, and you might have seen I put a piece of paper. That's just because so the thing doesn't come out and actually get stuck on that wood block which I used there. And if it gets stuck on the wood, it's a lot harder to take off. So I just put a piece of paper there. It's easier to remove from the way. What am I saying? Anyways, that's clamped. I'm gonna come back to this at night now to see how well it holds up on its own. The epoxy is dried. It's ready. Oh, at last. These hinges are surprisingly strong. I did not expect this kind of performance from these laptop hinges, but hey, the entire system is up and running. We've got our ports here. 2 USB here, 1 headphone jack. Power connector goes on the right side. Then on the left side as well, we have your SD card slot, USB 3, HDMI, Type-C, and what was supposed to be the Ethernet port. That's a whole other story. But hey, everything works. And the speakers too, I managed to put them on the laptop as well, on the back of it. Looks pretty good.